Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Sally. Yeah. So, guys, let us start our training. And thanks, Sally, once again for starting the recording. Okay. So, basically, guys, we are going to have a look at definitely the contract compliance over here. Okay, and the reporting options over here. Both of the things we are going to have a look at it today. So, first of all, before we begin with our session over here, uh, when we are talking about contract compliance, what's the difference between contract management and contract compliance? So why I am touching this point, because these are pretty much important. Why? Because before you go and do contract compliance, you should understand why contract compliance is important. Otherwise, what will happen is like you won't be able to know that what's the difference in contract management and what's the difference in contract compliance. Why? Because in many time we have seen most of the time, uh, participants generally try to understand that what's the difference between either of these two things, and this thing generally will cause issue where, guys, in your integration. Okay. So let us try to understand what is contract management. I think contract management means the module where you will be creating contract and publishing the contract. Very good. But where? In Ariba Upstream. Here, don't expect that once you publish the contract will automatically go down to downstream. It will never go. Okay, that's the first thing. So that's a very good thing. Now, what is the usage of contract compliance? So basically, the contract compliance is a bridge. Bridge between what? Bridge between both Ariba upstream and Ariba downstream. So once you have published the contract in Ariba upstream, then you need to complete the contract compliance document against the contract. Then only once the contract compliance document is submitted and completed successfully, then only this contract will move from upstream to downstream. Okay, and then you'd be able to also track how many POA has been created against this contract. Why? Because through contract compliance you can track how many PO has been created against this particular contract. Why? Because you are doing the consumption of the contract in Ariba downstream. So it is a very important part of H2P process. Why? Because you have find out your source of supply in contract in the upstream part. Basically, now you are moving your source of supply along with all of your, rates and all those stuff from upstream to downstream, so that the contract is consumed directly in your Ariba downstream. So that is the main difference between contract compliance and contract management. Now, first of all, how to do it? So for that thing, what we will do is like we will go back to our old contract. We will click on this particular contract which we have already created. Now, once we have seen this thing, where we will go to the documents. In the documents, by default, you will find both of these two documents. It will be in published status. Why? Because we have published it as a part of contract management. Now what we will do, we will go into the action tab, and then there is a thing called as contract terms. We will click on the contract terms. Okay, once we click on the contract terms, automatically this particular kind of screen will come, and here you can see most of the details like hierarchical type, okay, affected parties, supplier, agreement date, effective date, expiration date, all of this thing, term type is going is coming. So guys, any idea or any guess from where this particular values are coming in the screen? Correct. Correct, guys. It is coming from your contract only. That means contract from contract management. Okay. So most of the time, people generally will think like they have to update the value over here. Okay. But in reality, you don't have to update any value at all. You will just see all this thing and you will click on OK. Okay. So once you click on OK, a new screen will open. That particular screen will be having what? The contract compliance documentum over there and nothing else. Okay. Just wait for some more time. I think there is some much activity in this particular Ariba system, so that is why it is taking a little bit more time. Mm-mm, sorry, I think there was some problem. Give me a moment. Give me a moment over here, guys. Let me refresh the screen once again. Pick up the contract. Okay, approve the contract. I think we have already done the approval, but still there was some issue with the cookie. So that is why it was not letting me, publish the or basically create the contract compliance document over here. Okay. Now basically this is nothing but the contract compliance screen, first of all. So pay very what you can say full focus over here in this particular screen. Why? Because this screen is very much important. Why? Because you have to understand how the contract is getting moved from your Ariba upstream as well as downstream. And if you look at the different fields, you will understand that here we are not only having upstream related data, but we are also having downstream related data. Okay. So let us have a look at the different fields over here. So the first thing is like the contact which is coming. Contact is nothing but basically who is the contract creator. That particular person's ID is coming over here. That is PN1 user 3, nothing else. Okay. Second one, which is coming over here, is nothing but the purchasing unit. So, guys, have you seen purchasing unit before? Did we discuss anything about purchasing unit before, guys? Till now? Can you please confirm, guys, whether we have discussed anything about purchasing unit or not? Correct. No. Why? Because always remember one thing, guys, over here. Purchasing unit is a downstream specific data, basically master data. Purchasing unit does not exist in your Ariba upstream. So that is why we did not discuss about that particular thing. So then you will be asking Manoj, hey, we are in contract, right? Ultimately, we are working in a contract compliance document, but we are still in upstream. How come purchasing unit is coming? It is coming because contract compliance is nothing but a part of Ariba upstream plus downstream. And the second thing is like, you will ask me that Manoj, how the value is coming over here? That should be a good question. How the value is coming, purchasing unit. So any idea, guys, from where the purchasing unit value is coming? Okay, let me tell. Whenever you will create a buyer ID means basically the user ID, right? Okay, so whenever you will create it, what will happen is like you have to make sure that whenever a buyer ID will be sorry, just a moment. When you're creating a buyer user ID over here in SAP Ariba, okay, which buyer can work in upstream, which buyer can work in downstream? Any idea, guys? Or how you will determine which buyer ID will be able to work on upstream, which buyer will be able to work on only in downstream, or both, or which buyer would be able to work on both of the upstream as well as downstream solution? And let me tell you the hint, let me give you a hint over here, guys. uh, Please don't say that through authorizations rules authorization we can control it. Why? Because yes, it is partly true. That means, let's say for upstream you will give the authorization as registration, sourcing administrator, sourcing agent, contract administrator, contract approver, contract agent, like this, supply request manager, like this you are going to give. Okay, very good. And for the downstream you are going to give, catalog user, purchasing user, purchasing administrator, like this. Very good. But apart from this also, remember, the major difference between Ariba upstream and Ariba downstream for buyer ID is, remember, that your buyer ID, if they are having upstream specific roles, they can directly go into the Ariba upstream and they can directly start their work. But if your buyer ID is having Ariba downstream roles, you will go, but you won't be able to create a PR, PO, and all those things. Why? Because remember, in SAP Ariba, there is a information, some parameters are needed to be entered as a part of your user profile. Once you enter those values, then only a buyer can create a downstream related transactional documents. So what are those information basically? Those information are basically purchasing unit, company code, okay, purchasing organization, purchasing group, all this stuff. So this information is not mandatory for upstream, but this information is mandatory for downstream. That means whenever you are creating a buyer ID, if that person is going to work in upstream, all this particular information is not mandatory. But if this buyer is going to work in downstream, all this information is mandatory. Why? Because if you don't have a purchasing unit, purchasing or company code, purchasing group over there, you cannot create APR. Similarly, if your buyer ID is not having all these particular things, you won't be able to create the contract compliance. Why? Because this value will not come over there. And I think all of you can see over here that a purchasing unit is coming as asterisk, with asterisk. That means what? It's a mandatory field. You cannot say I will not fill it from my user profile. Okay, so as a part of Ariba prerequisite in downstream, any buyer who is not having the uh, field value like purchasing unit, company code, purchasing org, purchasing group, they cannot take part in the full procurement for downstream process, as well as they cannot create a contract compliance document as well. Remember, this is a, you know very important question whenever you will go for interview, both from the perspective of the client as well as from the company too. They will ask you that which buyer can take part in your Ariba P2P process. you have to say the same thing they will ask you in contract compliance, that whenever you're creating the contract compliance, okay, what type of issue you can face, because there is no issue. See, if you give a wrong data, if you give something wrong over there, then it will be having a issue. But apart from that, if your user ID is not having all this information, then what will happen? You won't be able to work on this particular contract compliance. So that is the biggest issue. So keep this thing in mind, guys. Okay. So once you see purchasing unit is coming from your user profile, that's very good. No issues. Next thing, if you have a look at this thing, there is a thing called as is blanket purchase order. So guys, any idea what is a blanket purchase order? Uh, Guys, you can confirm. Yeah, you can confirm in the chat box over there. Yeah. So basically, how a blanket purchase order is a different thing from a purchase order. Any idea, guys, or any guess? So basically, I will tell you over here. So yes, guys, what you have given the answer over here is correct, but that is from the ECC perspective. But from SAP Ariba perspective, what is a blanket purchase order? I will tell you. So let's say you are having a contract, right? You are having a contract. That contract is of value of, let's say, $1 million, right? And there will be also some quantities, something around, let's say, 10,000 quantity. So when you will be consuming this particular contract, what will happen? Generally, $1 million contract, you're going to consume this thing in multiple times, right? Okay, you're going to consume this thing multiple times. So in that scenario, you're going to use PO. It's like you will create a PO against the contract. But let's say you have created a contract for 100,000 USD and it is for urgent procurement. So what you will do? You cannot create multiple PO. This will take a lot of time. You will create a BPO. And once you create a BPO against that particular contract, what will happen? The whole contract will get consumed within that one BPO. So by default, always remember, in Ariba contract compliance, whenever you want to consume the contract in multiple times, that means in different time frames, slowly you will be using POs over there. But if you want to use this contract in one shot, urgently it is required. Okay. So in that scenario, you have to choose BPO, that is blanket purchase order. So that is the difference between a BPO and PO over here in SAP Ariba. Okay. So that is why, guys, it is very important that you look at BPO from SAP Ariba's point of view, not from ECC's point of view over here. So that's the difference. So here, by default, you can see if blanket purchase order is coming as no. That means what? That means whenever you will send this contract compliance to downstream, you would be only be able to create multiple POs against this contract. Okay. But if you click on yes over here, what will happen? So in that scenario, when this contract compliance when this particular contract will move from Ariba upstream to Ariba downstream, then automatically against the contract you cannot create a PO. Basically, you will create a PR, and after the PR, generally, if you click on is blanket purchase order is equal to yes, then automatically system will create a BPO. It will not create a PO. It will create a BPO automatically over there. So that is how the process will run. But remember, only one time. Only one time. Okay. So that is the difference between is blanket purchase order and a purchase order over here. Okay. And why I am so much specifically asking this thing, because when we will go over there in the tiered pricing concept, you will see there are discounts and all those things. So how the discount will be applied over there, cumulatively or one by one, either of this thing has to be selected. So there BPOs will also come into the picture. For BPO you will select one option, and for PO you will select another option. You should not mix up both of these two things. Okay. The next thing you can see over here, hierarchical type, effective date, expiration date. Okay. All of these things, it's coming from where? From the contract. We don't have to use it. Same thing if I ask, what do you mean by the evergreen concept over here, guys? So can any of you take a guess what is the meaning of evergreen? Any guess, guys? What's the meaning of evergreen over here? Or why it is coming as evergreen as no? Here we have given this option. So first of all, if you encounter this particular thing, always remember evergreen means what? That means don't look at it from Mario perspective. Look outside. So when saying something or somebody is evergreen, that means what? It's never goes out of the fashion. It never goes old. It will be young. So when I'm talking about evergreen with respect to SAP Ariba's contract terminology, it means the contract which will never get expire. Why it will not get expire? Because of your selection. So here, actually what we selected, we have given expiration date, right? We have selected the term as fixed type. So basically, yes, there's an expiration date. So whenever the expiration date is there and you have selected either the fixed term or the auto renew for the contract, evergreen will always be no. When it will be yes, whenever you will choose the term type as perpetual. Perpetual means what? There is no expiration date. So in that case, evergreen will be yes. Now, if you can recap the last session, not yesterday's session, guys, actually the last session which we have seen on previous Sunday, where we will use perpetual term type, term type as perpetual for which contract? Correct, guys. Master agreement. So as we have seen, there are three types of hierarchies, right? Master agreement, sub agreement, and the third one is what? Standalone agreement. Standalone agreement means it is not related. Subcontract means what? It is a child for the master agreement. So always remember, as I said, master agreement you have to create once per each department, and there he will not add any pricing things, he will only add terms and conditions, right? So any subcontract you are creating, it will be having the reference of your master agreement. So master agreement will always be perpetual. That means there is no expiration date. But sub agreement and standalone agreement will always have a expiration date. So since we are either working with sub agreement or standalone agreement over here, this will always be coming as evergreen is equal to no, first of all. Second of all, you should ask me another query, that Manoj, can we move a master agreement from upstream to downstream? No, you cannot move this thing from upstream to downstream. Why? Because as per master agreement terminology of SAP Ariba, it is not having any price. It will have only terms and condition. Now, if you move a master agreement from upstream to downstream, Ariba will say it is having value 0. So you cannot consume it. So that is why always remember, master agreement is never moved through Ariba contract compliance. That's the first thing. Second thing is like only the subcontract and the standalone agreement contract are generally moved through Ariba contract compliance, and in that both of these cases evergreen will be no, it won't be yes. Okay. Yeah, I think there is one question from Prem. Usually MSA is company wide. It's necessary to MSA for no Prem. See, again, as I said, the concept of master agreement over here is based from Ariba's point of view. And as I said, contract is totally based on what? Department. For each department, it will be different thing. So basically, with Ariba's terminology, always remember, for each department, you are going to have one master agreement. Okay, that is a mandatory thing from Ariba side. If you're going to use master agreement, if you're not going to use it, then no issues. Okay, but from SAP, yes, I totally understand that in SAP you will create only one master agreement from a client side. That is more than enough. But in SAP Ariba, generally you have to create for each department. Why? Because your client will be saying, my HR department will have different terms and condition, my finance department will have different terms and condition, my IT department will have different terms and condition. So for that I have to do it. So in that case, yes, you can do that. See, like Ariba is pretty much flexible. Okay, so yes, you can do that, but remember, you have to do contract, master agreement based on the department. Now don't give different terms and condition, give the same terms and condition everywhere else. Why I am saying this thing? If if you don't use the department concept over there, your client will say to you that okay, their requirement is they will have only one master agreement for the whole buying organization, but they will need different templates for different departments. Now let's say HR department is having one template, IT department is having another template. If you use the same master agreement, what will happen? There will be issues. So in that case, if you don't want to use it, what I will say is like, still you need to declare department specific master agreement, but within the master agreement use the same terms and condition. Use the same terms and condition. So in a later stage, if clients say no, see, I have created different template, that means the contract process will be slightly different for each of the department. Now I want to change the MSA, I want to make it from company specific thing to department specific thing. So later on, yes, you can adjust. But if you don't do that thing, as I said earlier, that okay, create different master agreement with the same terms and condition. Later on, if the client change their mind, you just have to change the terms and condition in the master agreement. Okay, But if you don't do that, and if you create only one master agreement, later on there will be a lot of issue. Okay, so in this way you can go ahead with your requirement. Is it clear, Prem? Yeah, welcome, Prem. So always remember this thing, guys. So why I am telling this thing? Because these are very small things. Why? Because in interview, especially client as well as companies, they will ask why evergreen is not equal to yes, or in which case it will be yes. So many participant will say evergreen is not equal to yes. Why? Because uh, it's not a unexpired contract. Then the next line of questioning for the interviewer will be where we are going to use it, why we are going to use it. Okay, so here you have to be very clear. Okay, yeah, just a moment, guys. I will suggest to you that whatever questions you are having over here, please write it down in your notebook or in a notepad. We are going to have our question answer session shortly only. Okay, so we are going to take your question answer sessions over there. Every queries which you're having, we are going to have it. Okay, no issues on that part. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, next thing which we are talking about over here is, always remember, master agreement will have evergreen is equal to yes. Why? Because it will be having perpetual agreement type. That's the first thing. Second thing, master agreement cannot be moved through Ariba contract compliance. So always remember, only subcontract and standalone agreement can be moved through Ariba contract compliance, and for them evergreen will always be no. So that's how the system works over here. Always keep this thing in your mind. Now, once this has been done, the same thing it is coming, purchasing organization and company code over here. Okay, where it is coming from? It is coming from my user profile. Okay, we don't have to do anything. It is automatically coming in my user profile. Okay, so let it be like that. Don't change anything. Next thing, the vendor over here, it is coming. See, the vendor is coming in a very different way. Okay, now vendor is coming in a different way. Why? Can any of you guys take a guess why vendor is coming differently? Because, because remember one more thing, guys. The vendor is coming differently. Why? Because this is not an upstream supplier or upstream vendor. So what is it? It is a downstream supplier. Okay. So then you will be asking me, what does this particular thing means? Okay. So basically, what I will say over here is like the meaning of upstream and downstream supplier is coming from where? It is coming from the SLP. Okay, that's the first thing. So that is why, if you remember over here, guys, why I said before going for the sourcing project, excuse me, guys, before going for the sourcing project, what you will do? You will complete the registration process of the supplier. Once that is completed, then only you will go for sourcing project. You will complete all the sourcing project process. Then what you are going to do? You are going to award the RFP or the sourcing project to the supplier. Okay. Once this has been done, just before contract creation, what you have to do? Can any of you guys remember? Just before contract creation and just after RFP or sourcing project awarding, we have to do one activity. What is that thing? Correct. Qualification of the supplier in SLP. Why? Because if you don't do the qualification, then the schedule job or the background schedule job will not work, and it will not create a downstream supplier in the background. So why I said that this is a mandatory thing before you create the contract, because once you do this qualification, after half an hour or 40 minutes, the background job will run and it will create a supplier as a part of Ariba downstream. Once the supplier is created, then automatically here you will have the vendor ID over here automatically. There will be no issue. But if your background job is having some issue, or if there is something else, then what will happen? So in that case, always remember one thing, guys, that if the supplier has not been created in Ariba downstream, here there will be big error which will be coming, saying vendor cannot be empty. So many participants or many Ariba consultant will be thinking over here that, what's the issue? Supplier, it is already existing. They will still think that this Ariba contract compliance is referring to upstream supplier. But actually, in reality, here Ariba contract compliance is referring to downstream supplier only. So keep this thing in mind, guys. So until and unless the supply is not created in downstream, here if you come, it will throw up an error. Okay. Yeah. Next thing is like you are seeing some rules. What is the first rule which you are seeing? Create subscription for non-catalog item. So first of all, guys, when we begin our sourcing process and we were discussing about the upstream part process over there, how many in percentage, how many sourcing project will be used for new items? How many sourcing project will be used for your old items? Any guess, guys? I think we have already discussed this thing previously a lot of time. Any guess, guys? That means if you're doing a sourcing project, how many time in percentage he will do it for new item? How many times he will do it for the old items? Ah, correct, correct. That means 80% for the new one. Okay, 20% for the old one. Okay, you should be clear on this part. And when I'm saying new item means what? New item means those item which is not present within your catalogs. So by default, new item in Ariba is known as non-catalog item. So that is why Ariba is asking over here. So if the contract contains non-catalog item, what should I do? Okay, what should I do over here? So basically, you are telling the Ariba system, boss, 80% of the time you will find non-catalog item only. So you have to create those items where in Ariba catalogs in downstream. So once these particular contracts move from upstream to downstream, then if it is a non-catalog item, that particular subscription will be created in Ariba catalogs. Why? Because let's say next time you just copy this particular contract and you create another contract and you once again create a contract compliance. At that time, these items will not be non-catalog item. Why, guys? Because it is existing within your catalog. Yeah, yeah. Subscription means addition to catalog only. Yeah. So basically, first time when you're doing this is non-catalog. Let's say you have given laptop over here. So for the first time when you're doing laptop is a non-catalog item. But once it goes and sits in your Ariba downstream catalogs, then next time when you are creating a contract for laptop, it will not be a non-catalog item. What it will be? It will be a catalog item. Okay, that means what will be happening is like updation will happen. Okay, so always remember this thing. Since 80% of the time we are going to do activity for non-catalog item, so always keep this option as yes. Otherwise what will happen is like whenever you are adding non-catalog item, okay, that particular item will not go into your Ariba downstream and it will also not reflect in your catalog. So lot of people, when they do this configuration of Ariba contract compliance, they will just give this option as no. Then what will happen is like they will say 80% of the time Ariba contract compliance is not working. Why? Any new catalog item, we are not able to add it over here at all. Okay, so that particular issue will come over here. Okay, so always remember this has to be selected as yes. Okay, then another important thing is over here, that is, sorry, why it's coming like this, allow change order against closed contract. What do you think, guys? What it should be? When I'm talking about allow change order against closed contract, that means let's say take for example, I have taken 1 million value contract and the last PO which I am creating against the contract, that is of $1 million. That means like the value of the contract has been totally used by all the POs and I'm working on the last PO right now. Now let's say I have sent one PO, okay, and the contract has been closed. Why? Because it has been fully consumed value wise. Now there's some issue and supplier wants to say they want to deliver less or they want to deliver more. So you decides to change the PO. Should you be able to do it? What do you think, guys? What do you think? The contract is already closed in Ariba downstream. Should that particular option be given to the buyer to either change the contract once the to change the last PO if the contract has been closed? Yeah, correct, guys. Remember, this should always be selected as no. Why? Because there will be audit issue. Why? Because your contract has been basically consumed, fully consumed. How come you can change the order? And if you are, let's say, deducting some quantity, let's say 1,000 quantity you've given, you're making it 500 quantity. What will happen then? There will be a lot of issue with the contract. So generally, how Ariba effectively deal with those kind of business process? Ariba says over there that whenever you want to change a PO, if the contract has been closed, please go to your contract and then go to your contract compliance. Extend the date or extend the value over there, okay, and then republish. What will happen? The second version of the contract will move from Ariba upstream to the Ariba downstream through contract compliance. Then what will happen? Then once again the contract will become open over there, active. Then you can change the PO. whichever is needed changing over there. So that is the general process. So always remember this option has to be selected as no. If you by mistake select this option as yes, then this will be audit issue. No client like this particular issue over here. Keep this thing in mind, guys. Okay. Next is you can see the currency over here. Okay. And the preparer over here. Both of these things are again once again coming from where? From my ID. My user ID is present over here. Similarly, the currency is nothing but my user ID over here and nothing else. Okay. So once this particular thing has been done, we'll move on to our next thing, that is limits. Now, when I'm talking about the different limits over here, basically, you will see two limits. In this first option, what I am seeing is like I am seeing the first limits over here. Okay. In the next page also, when I will go, I will also see limits. Then you might be thinking, Manoj, what is this limit we are getting in second page as well as the third page too? Why it is so? So remember, guys, in this page, whenever you are going to see the limit, remember this limit is based on what? This limit is based on the header limits. Okay. And in the next page, that is on the third page, whenever you will see the limit, that particular limit is nothing but the item wise limit. Okay. So keep both of this thing in mind. Okay. So first of all, minimum commitment. Now let's say you want to give us 1,000 euros. What do you mean by minimum commitment, guys? That means whenever a contract will be moved from upstream to downstream, whenever you are creating a PO against this particular contract, remember it has to be of at least 1,000 euro value. You cannot create any PO which is less than 1,000 euro. Why? Because system will throw up an error message over there. Why? Because the value of your PO is going down from the minimum commitment value, which will not be allowed by the system. So always remember minimum commitment means at least the PO should be of 1,000 euro or more than that. Okay. Then next two things which you are seeing over here, these are not actually limits. These are actually notification. Now, guys, before I go into the notification, we are having notification in contract management, right? For for the expiry date, for the all the other things. Then why we will need extra notification over here, guys? See, same thing is coming over here. See, amount spent I can understand, but why the dash days before the contract expire send notification? Why it is coming? Means like there's a duplicacy, right? But Ariba is not a fool to give you a duplicate functionality over here. Then why Ariba is displaying this option, extra notification? Any guess, guys? No, 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 no. See, contract renewal and all those stuff, it will be handled through contract management. So there we have seen the notice period, right? 15 days, 20 days. So 20 days before it, the contract creator will receive a mail and they can go ahead and republish the contract. Okay. But I am asking why over here? Why over here in the contract compliance? Ah, correct, correct. Remember this thing over here. So whenever you are changing a contract in upstream, many Ariba consultants think that once they change the contract, the second version of the contract will automatically flow to Ariba downstream. Wrong, guys. Whenever you are changing the contract, once that has been changed, the contract compliance should also be changed and republished. Otherwise, what will happen? The second version of the contract will never go to downstream. That is why over here, Ariba is saying that, okay, I have already sent one mail to the contract creator who will create a second version of the contract. But here I need send a mail to the contract compliance creator too. Then what will happen? So once the contract management team generally creates the second version of your contract, then you as a contract compliance creator will get a mail. What you will do? You will also change the date and all the other stuff, and you will publish the second version of contract compliance. This will move the second version of the contract from upstream to downstream. That is why. So always remember, this is also one of the important question, that why notification, same notification is existing in contract management as well as contract compliance too. What's the difference? This is the difference. Always keep in mind over here. Okay. So here I will put, let's say, 5 days. So that means what? That means the contract management team will receive all this particular email from the 15 days before the expiry, and I as a part of contract compliance team member will receive this notification mail 5 days before the contract expiry. Okay, so that is how the notification works over here. Okay, similarly, if you go to the maximum limit, I will put, let's say, 100,000 euros or 1 lakh euro. That means any PO which you are creating from where? From your contract in Ariba downstream. You cannot create any PO which is having more than 100,000 euros. Even though your contract is having 1 million value, you cannot create a PO for 150,000 euros, or maybe 110,000 euro. It will never work. So always keep this thing in mind, guys, that the maximum limit means what? That means any PO should not breach this particular limit. Okay, now there is something tricky. Why? Because in minimum commitment there is no concept of tolerance, but in maximum limit there's a concept of tolerance. What do we mean by tolerance over here? First of all, what is the meaning of tolerance? So basically, if I put 10% over here, now what will happen over here, guys? That means the new maximum limit is what? 110,000 euros, or maybe in Indian figure, if we talk about 1,10,000 euros. Why? Because plus minus tolerance will get activated. But in that scenario, you have to make sure this particular option is always selected as no. If you select this option as yes, then what will happen? Your tolerance will go into the water. Why? Because you are saying it's a hard maximum limit. That means this is the maximum limit, and this will be enforced on any PO which is being created. Why? Because this is a hard limit. Tolerance will not come into the picture. So always make sure when you're selecting tolerance over here, this option should be selected as no. Okay. Now, next thing. Now, this is the most important thing. This is called as the pricing terms. Now, guys, I think you should ask me one question over here, that Manoj, we are creating a contract compliance over here. What about the contract line items? Right? What about the contract line items? So where the contract line item were existing, guys? Any guess? how it was existing within the contract management, contract line items detail, pricing detail information, as well as line item details, how it was coming. Any guess, guys? Correct. In pricing terms XLS or pricing.xls. So it will not come over here automatically. You have to add this data. And as I said, most of the time it will be a non-catalog data. So how you will add a non-catalog data over here? So those things has to be added manually over here. Remember, these things will not come automatically as of now. Yeah, Ariba is working on doing this automation currently, but remember guys, it is not yet live. That means that particular feature is still not live. That means if you're going to do your work over here, you have to do it manually for the next 6 to 7 months. After that, what will happen? Then only this particular items will come automatically. But before that, right now, we have to do this thing manually. How you will do this thing manually? So you have to click on add items. Now, once you click on add items, what will happen? Ariba will automatically take you to Ariba downstream catalogs. So here you are able to see two items. What are these items, guys? Any guess? What are these items called? Correct, 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 guys. So these two items are nothing but the catalog item. Why? Because they are present within the catalog. But our requirement is not to add any catalog item over here. Our requirement is to add a non-catalog item. So I think some of you will be thinking, Manoj, from where we will add the non-catalog item? So it's pretty easy, guys. Just after, just look at the right hand side top uh, of your screen. There's a done button. Just beneath the done, see there is a page with a plus mark or add addition mark. And when you hover the, your cursor over there, you're seeing this option as add a non-catalog item. Click on that one. Okay. Once you click on this thing, so first of all, what you will do, you say, okay. Now, I think all of you might be thinking, Manoj, okay, you can remember this thing, but what about our process? How I will know which value to add over here? So in that scenario, guys, always remember, you can take the help of this one. Just a moment. This is basically your what? Basically your what? Basically your line item information, right? From contract management. So open this thing and then come over here and then you copy and paste it just like this. Laptop with high-end specs, you can just paste it over here. Okay. Commodity code over here is basically, see, it will be coming in 32. Okay. 32 means basically electronic components and supplies. How I know this? Because this is a training server, guys, so that is why it is coming in 32 over there. Otherwise the text will only come over there. Okay, so that particular text you have to select over here. Okay, next is unit of measure is each, so you have to select each over here. Okay, and what is the negotiated price? This is basically the negotiated price, so you have to click over here. This much is the negotiated price. Okay, okay. Now one more thing, if you are seeing over here, that supplier part ID. What is the supplier part ID over here, part number over here, guys? Any guess, guys? Correct, guys. Correct. Totally correct. That means basically supplier material number. In a very simple way. In a very simple way, if I say the answer supplier material number and nothing else. Right? So why we need it? Because remember this thing, there is no material number concept from the buying organization side. All of you will be thinking, what are you saying, Manoj? But remember, this is true, guys. There is no, actually, no concept of material number from the buying organization side. So that is why in Ariba as well as in catalogs also, supplier part number is a mandatory parameter. Why? Because when we are going to talk about integration, guys, over there we have to do the mapping of what, mapping of ECC material number with the supplier part number, that we have to do it. So I'm not going too much deep into in this part. Guys, am I audible to all of you? Yeah. So I think most of you were able to hear about the supplier part number, right? Which I was talking about right now. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the confirmation, guys. No, actually, one participant was not able to hear it, so that is why I was thinking that whether I was, audible to all of you or not. Yeah. So remember this thing just for a heads up. All those things we are going to discuss, but not right now. Why? Because those things will become, then what will happen is like how integration happens, where it happens. All these questions will come into the picture right now. And if we decide, discuss on those things, our contract compliance and reporting will not get completed. Okay, so for the integration also we are having separate sessions, for catalogs also we are having separate session, so no issues on this part. But just for a heads up, supplier part number is mandatory in Ariba downstream part when you are working in anything on downstream, whether you work in catalogs, whether in PR, PO, anywhere. This is important. Why? Because there is no concept of material number from the buying organization side. Same thing, it is also important in the integration. Why? Because you have to map the ECC material number with what? With the supplier part number. So that is why over here you just have to ask the supplier, and once you have asked the supplier, okay, you are going to put a supplier part number. Just like this, you can put the supplier part number over here and you can click on OK. Now, now guys, here also, here also you can see the limits coming over here. Minimum amount, maximum amount, tolerance. Now, what are these particular limits we are talking about? Can any of you take a guess? Any guess, guys? Or let's make this point interesting. Yeah, what I'm going to do is like minimum amount I'm going to put as, let's say, 15,000. Maximum amount I'm going to put as 200,000. Okay. Now you tell me, guys, which uh, which tolerance level or which limit will actually work? The limit which we have given in the second page or the limit which we have set right now? When the header limit will get triggered, when the line item limit which we have configured here right now will get triggered. So always remember one thing over here, guys. So when you will add this line item, so if you are fully utilizing the contract, fully utilizing contract means what? Can anybody take a guess? No, 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 not BPO, guys, not BPO. I am talking about utilization of contract. Basically, I'm not saying that within one time you have to consume the whole contract. I'm saying about utilization of the full contract. No, 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 guys. Remember this thing. When I'm saying utilization, I'm not saying consumption of whole contract. Consumption of whole contract means what? BPO, one BPO only. Utilization means, on the other hand, remember all the line item which is present within the contract you are adding in your PO. Okay, that is called as the full utilization. That means, let's say you are having 5 line item within the contract, and within your PO you are copying all these 5 contract item. So that is called as full utilization. Okay, so in that case your header limits will come into the picture. Why? Because you are utilizing the full contract. That means you are not deleting any item, all the items you are copying. But if you're not utilizing it fully, out of 5 you have only used one contract, sorry, one line item. What will happen? So in that scenario, the header limits which you have mentioned, it will not come into the picture at all. Why? Because the rest of the 4 line item you have deleted, and you're saying to the Ariba system, boss, I am only taking one of the 5 line item from your contract. So your header information and header condition generally will not get carried forward over here. So then the limit which I have given over here, this will apply. Okay, so remember, guys, this is pretty much important. When the header will get triggered, header limits, and when the line item limits will get triggered. Header limits will get triggered when all the item has been copied from the contract into your PO. Line item level limits when it will get triggered when you select that particular line item level, a line item, not the all the line items of the contract. Keep this thing in your mind, guys. Okay, now if you scroll down a little bit, there's a thing you can see over here, the different just a moment. Different thing is coming: account assignment, account type, bill to, GL account, cost center. Again, guys, from where it is coming? Any guess? Correct, guys. It is coming from your user profile only. So always remember, these things which you have added over here, or it is coming automatically, this will come from your user profile. Okay, and again, this particular information is required for only downstream buyer. For upstream buyer, you don't need this information. Okay, now there's a thing called as tiered pricing. This is the most important thing in SAP Ariba. Why? Because many client generally ask that I want to give dynamic discount in SAP Ariba, and Ariba will say, hey, you have to be very clear about that. Why? Because only in one place in SAP Ariba you can give dynamic pricing or dynamic discounting. That is only in this part. Now, before I go and look for tiered pricing, so guys, generally, once again, the question generally the participant, you know, who has, who has asked me this type of question previously, I am going to ask the same question. So basically, let's say all of you are buyer. You are right now in the contract compliance screen, and you click on different tiers, and you give the dynamic discounting. So as a buyer, you will give it out of your mind, or these things will come from supplier, or both supplier and buyer will have to agree to this discount. In which way it will work, guys? Yeah, correct. Agreed upon by both. But have we captured this data? Why? Because if we haven't captured the data, so most of the time buyer will, most of the participant will think buyer will just decide what is the discount they will give it. But actually not. It is not. Correct, 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 guys. Totally correct. This is a very good sign. I think most of you are able to, recall the things. Basically, if you remember not yesterday, actually in previous week sessions, that means on Sunday session, previous Sunday session, there I said there's a task called a supplier negotiation task. There you have to take the consent from the supplier that they are agreeing to everything, right? And within the supplier negotiation task also, you have to means like you will negotiate with the supplier saying I want this discount, how much discount you're going to give. So supplier will say okay, for 100 quantity I'm going to give you this much discount, for 200 quantity this much discount. So all these things supplier will be sending through a mail, and as a buyer you will be downloading this mail in MSG format or in PDF format, and you will upload this thing where within the supplier negotiation task. Just before you come over here, download that particular MSG or PDF format thing, and then you define the tiers. Okay, keep this thing in mind, guys, always. Why? Because lot of confusion is there. Participants generally think buyer will unilaterally give this particular information. It's not true, guys. Okay, so how we are going to give the tiers? We will click on define tiers. Now, before I go into the tiers and show you the different tiers, I'm going to ask you a simple question. What's the meaning of the scope over here? You are able to see cumulative and per order. What is the meaning of this thing? Any guess, guys? So let me just explain why, because this is a little bit complex. It's not that easy. So per order, when you will click it or when you will use it, per order will be used whenever you are creating multiple PO against the contract. Then only you will be creating it. That's the first thing. Okay. Then you will be asking me, Manoj, where I will click on the cumulative, or why I will click on the cumulative. Remember this thing, guys. Cumulative has to be created on what level? Generally, most of the participant will think cumulative means we can also do it for all the POs. What do you mean by that? It will never work over there. Why? Because conceptually speaking, you will say in which PO, let's say you have created 10 PO for the contract. In which PO you are going to apply the discount? On first PO, you cannot. 10th PO, what will happen is like your value in the PO, in the 10th PO might go into negative. Why? because system is taking the summation of 10 POs. So generally remember, cumulative will never work for purchase order. It will work where? It will work only in case of BPO. So if you have clicked on is blanket purchase order yes, then only you will select cumulative. If you have selected that as no, you have to choose per order. That means whatever tier pricing I'm going to give over here, it will be applied on each purchasing order. But if we have clicked on BPO, I will click on cumulative. Why? Because there will be only one BPO against the contract compliance. And against that particular BPO, what will happen is like that particular BPO, the whole tier pricing will be applied only in one BPO. So that is why it is cumulative. Okay. So this is the concept of cumulative and per order. Be very clear on this part. Otherwise, what will happen is like, you know, a lot of questions generally get, asked by the by the interviewer over here. And this is the point where they ask here. Why? Because this is pretty much tricky over here. Okay. So cumulative means for BPO, per order means for purchase order only. Okay. Now you can see there is two things which is called as amount and quantity. So what do you mean by amount and quantity? So basically, if I have select amount based volume discount over here, what will happen is like I will say for 100,000 euro, supply is saying they will give discount of 2%. For 200,000 euros, supply will give 4% discount. For 300,000 euros, supplier will give 6%. For 400,000 euros, supplier will give 8%. And for 5 sorry 500,000 euros, supplier will give 10%. Okay. So what do you mean by all this particular thing? What is the meaning of this thing? That means most of you will be thinking that Manoj, if I order less than 1,000, that means 90,000 euros, then what will happen? Then in that case, there will be no discount. Then the next query would be Manoj, if my value is 150,000 euro or 1,50,000 euro, then in that case, what will happen, guys? So in that case, 2% will be over here. So remember, most of the participant will think the same amount has to match within the PO. No, it is not correct over here, guys. So basically, what Ariva is saying is like from 1 lakh till 1,99,999 euros. If this is the value for the PO, 2% discount will be given. Next is like from 2 lakhs till 2,99,999 value is there, then 4% discount will be ordered. It will be automatically applied. So always remember, the pricing over here is not dependent on one value, it's a range. What's the range? You can see this is the lower limit of the range. Upper limit of the range for the first thing will be depending upon the next limit, but here always -1. That would be the upper limit for this first range. Second range also, lower limit is from 2 lakhs. What is the higher limit? 3 lakhs -1. That means 2,99,999. So in this way, what will happen? The different things over here will get added automatically. Okay. Now, this we are talking about amount. So let's talk about quantity. So sorry, not pricing, actual discount. Okay. So when I'm talking about quantity, what do you mean by quantity? So instead of giving the value over here, what I will do is like I will say to the system that rather than giving the value, I will say for 200 quantity, this is a discount. Here for 300 quantity, this is the discount. For 500 quantity, this is the discount. For 600 quantity, this is the discount. And for 700 quantity, this is the discount. Now, once again, the same limit will come into the picture. That means 2% discount will be used in any PO whenever the quantity is between 200 till 299. Then 2% discount. Now, if the limit is between 300 and 499, then what will happen? Then 4% discount will be ordered. Okay, like this, the different limits will get applied over here. So once you click on this OK, what you will see is like you will see the tiered pricing coming over here automatically. Okay, and this will automatically go to the downstream and it will be automatically applied. Okay, so once you click on this done, just a moment. Okay, okay, sorry. Just click on done. Okay, now what I have done is like I have added this particular line item over here. Same thing, all of the buyers has to do it. They have to add this particular thing manually. Manually means what? Manually over here through the usage of Ariba downstream catalogs as well as tiered based pricing also, the buyer has to add it. Okay, next, generally milestone we never use over here. Milestone is not required. Why? Because we have not used the concept of milestone over here. But access control is important. Now, why access control is important? Because we have selected different notification, right? In this in the second tab, limits. Okay, so to whom the notification will go? So Ariba is asking over here. So basically what I will do is like I will select my user ID. Why? Because I am the contract compliance preparer as well as the author, as well as the creator. So basically the mail should go to me. But let's say I'm expecting that I will be also going into vacation. Okay, so I want one of my colleagues to also have that particular authorization. So when I will be in vacation, what will happen is like this particular guy also receives the email. So whom I will understand this particular thing, I will add it over here. Okay, so mail will only go to those user ID only. That is called as the notification list and nothing else. Next, when we click on this particular thing, what will happen is like the payment terms will come over here. So guys, once again, what is the payment term? Can anybody take a guess? What is the meaning of payment terms over here? Basically, payment terms is master data, right? No, Tanmay, no. Remember this thing, milestone and notification are not the same thing. Milestone means like you want to create some value over there and you're going to show to the buyers that once you complete this much amount of task, that means 50% of the process is completed, and if you complete this much amount of task, 75% is completed. So that is called as milestone. You don't require this over there. Notification are the same thing. Why? Because in notification, email will be sent to the buyer's inbox over there. So that is why notification list will be controlled through the access control things over here only. It is different from milestone over here. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so yes, correct. You're correct, Diksha, over here. So the payment terms basically means like how the payment is going to happen to the supplier. So here by default, payment terms will come from where? It will come from your ECC as a part of master data integration. So once that particular payment terms come over here, you don't have to worry about it. Why? Why? Because automatically one of the payment terms will be defaulted over here, and by default in the part of master data integration, all these payment terms will come into your Ariba system. That's the first thing. Second thing, one payment terms by default, it will be selected for the whole Ariba system. So that particular payment terms which has been selected by default will be appearing over here. Okay. So if you as a buyer thinks this particular payment terms is not correct, what you're going to do is like you can change it also. How you can change this particular thing? You will just click on change payment terms. Okay, and you will select this one, whichever you like. Let's say 10N. Okay, 10th day of the next month you're going to use it. Now you will go to the next thing. Now remember, appendixes over here are not used every time. It is only used for your urgent or some immediate kind of activity. What do you mean by that particular thing? That means, let's say right now you come to understand the supply is saying, hey, please put one more terms and condition. See, we are already having 13 terms and condition. I want you to put another terms and condition right now. So what are you going to do as a buyer? Are you going to go into the contract and management and you're going to open up the contract and you're going to create version 2? No. Why? Because supply is just saying there is a small condition, just add it over here. We don't need to change any value, not any major changes to terms and condition. So if there is a small changes and urgent changes which is required over here, rather than you going into the contract and opening up the contract, and that will take another 1 week or 2 week, you can directly come over here, click on add appendixes, and you can choose the file. Now let's say I have the main agreement over here, and in the main agreement I have uploaded that small small terms and condition. So I will click on updated terms and condition. Now I have to choose for which line item this particular document is uploaded. That means the terms and condition. And once I click on OK, then what will happen is like my document will be loaded also over here. Now remember, this you will not use always, only when some urgent thing is coming or urgent change is required, which are non-major. Non-major means what? Terms and condition. Let's say you have put a terms like this contract by default will be valid for 1 year. This you will put in the terms and condition, and same thing you will put within the expiration date. Now if you want to say that right now just you have published the contract and I want to increase the expiration date from 1 year to 2 years, now that is a major thing. So in that case you cannot just come over here and upload that thing. You have to go into the contract. Why? Because in the contract also you have to update the expiration date. That you have to do through the version 2 of the contract. There is no other option. But there is a small non-major terms and condition. Supply is saying please add it. So for that you don't need to create version 2 of the contract. You can come over here and add that particular document. Now once this particular document has been added, you will click on next. Okay, and you will click on save. No, Tanmay. There is no approval required over here. Why? Because basically, remember, contract compliance, generally who can do this contract compliance? Basically contract manager or contract administrator. Contract agent, generally they cannot do contract compliance over there. So that is why approval is not required. And similarly, the approval has been taken for the price and quantity and all those things where at the contract level itself. So there is no separate approval required for contract compliance. Okay, but still if your client say no, I want a approval, that can also be done with there. Okay, yeah. Now what you will do is like, yeah, correct Tanmay. the communication will always happen through mail, right? Any notification will be going, it will be going through email only. So what you need to do next is like you have to click on the publish. Incomplete required task. What is this particular thing? Just a moment. Give me a moment over here. I think somebody is doing some changes in the system. That is why we are having this particular issue over here, guys. Just give me a moment. Okay. Click on publish over here. And now you are able to get the submit option. And if you want to have a contract approval also over here, you can have the approval also. You can do the configuration of approval. Now where you can do the configuration, guys? So there is no template for contract compliance. So where you can do the configuration for approval flow for contract compliance? Any guess, guys? Where you can do it? So remember, you cannot do it in upstream. You have to do this thing as a part of downstream configuration only. That means when we will go into the downstream approval workflow configuration, there only you can set up this approval flow as a part of contract request. Okay. So if your client is saying no, I am going to need a explicit approval for contract compliance also. So for that also you can put a approval. But remember, this has to be configured as a part of Ariba downstream approval workflow, not as a part of Ariba upstream approval workflow. So once you click on the submit, then what will happen is like system will show that the contract request has been submitted. So click on view the status of your request. Okay. See what it is showing, sourcing confirming. Okay. Once again, I will go to contract workspace. That means contract workspace means what? Contract management. Okay. I will once again come over here and I will click on view detail. Sorry, not view detail. Just I will click on open. Now you will see the status has changed over here. Now it is showing status as open. Open means what? That means this particular contract compliance request for the contract has moved from upstream to downstream. Now remember guys, most of the people will think this CW12798 will move from upstream to downstream. Wrong guys. This is actually the contract management ID. This will never go from upstream to downstream. So which one will go? This one. C412. This is actually the contract compliance ID. So remember, when you're searching for the contract compliance over there in downstream part, you have to use the contract compliance ID, not the contract management ID. Okay. Always keep this thing in mind. Okay. And this will hold true in any project. Any project you're going to do the implementation, same thing is going to hold true. Okay. So guys, this is basically the contract compliance. So let us do one thing. Let us take a break of 10 minutes over here. After the break, we are going to have a question answer session on this contract compliance. So be ready with all of your question. Meanwhile, if you want to take a break also, please do take a break. After 10 minutes, we are going to have the question answer session. Yeah. Thank you guys. So let's take a break over here. Then we will be having the question answer session. Yeah. Thank you guys. So, guys, am I audible to all of you? Yeah, thanks for the confirmation, guys. So, who is having a query? Please raise your hand. We are going to unmute you one by one, and we are going to take your queries. Yeah, Diksha, can you please go ahead with your query?
Yeah, hi Manoj.
Yeah.
My first question is, can you repeat the part where you were talking about adding a approval in contract compliance? It is
Yeah,
done in downstream, you said.
yeah, yeah. So this approval flow generally will be done in downstream. Means like, see, there is no template for contract compliance. That's the first thing. Second thing is like, if you want to configure this approval workflow, you have to do this configuration in your downstream, not in upstream part.
Okay. And the second one was the last part where the status is showing open in the right
Yeah,
corner. This
yeah.
is the status for the contract compliance.
Compliance. Yeah, correct. Totally correct. This is not the status for the contract. This is the status for the contract compliance. Why? Because right now we are in contract compliance.
Hmm. And what does the status mean? That the contract has moved from upstream to downstream.
Yeah, that means the contract has moved from upstream to downstream and it is open. That means you can go into the downstream and you can reference this contract and you can create a PO right now.
Okay. So when will will you be showing it on the later state that the status when the status will change from open to something else?
Yeah, so that particular part, what we will do is like in the P2P flow, at that particular
Okay.
point, we will be showing you that how you can create a PR from there, from this contract, and then how the PO will get created automatically. All of those stuff we are going to see.
Okay. Okay, fine, got it. Thanks, Manoj. That was all.
Yeah, welcome, Diksha. Yeah, any other queries, guys? Please raise your hand. Or you can ping me also if you're having some query. I'm going to unmute you. Okay, looks like there is no queries over here. I think somebody pinged. Just give me a moment. Yeah, I think there is one query from Prem. Do we need to create a contract compliance as soon as the contract is completed, or can it be created even after we start releasing the initial PO? No. Remember, contract compliance you can create at any time, just after the publishing of PO, or maybe after 2 months of publishing of the PO also you can do it. It's not an issue. But remember, you can only create a PO against the contract when the contract compliance has been submitted and the contract compliance status is coming as open. So let me just do one thing, Prem. Let me just put you in unmute. Yeah. So Prem. So basically, what will happen is like PO you cannot create until and unless you moves the contract through the contract compliance from upstream to downstream. Once it is appearing within the downstream, that means once the contract compliance status is showing as open, then only you can create a PO against the contract. So until and unless this step is done, you cannot create any PO. Yeah. Any queries or any doubts over here, Prem? I think I have already unmuted you. You can, you can ask your query. Okay, okay. I think there is some issue with your audio. No issues, no issues. Let me just read your query once more. What is the prerequisite for contract compliance? Is SLP required or a sourcing project? Yeah. So in this case, Remember this thing, SLP is not a mandatory thing. Even for sourcing, contracting also, SLP is not a mandatory thing. But if you are having SLP, it's good to have. That's the first thing. Second thing is like, what is the prerequisite for contract compliance? Always contract management. That's the first thing. That means you need to have upstream with contract management. That's the first thing. Second thing, you should also have Ariba downstream. Now, this is where most of the participants make a mistake. They think that if they're having Ariba upstream with contract management, by default they will have compliance. Yes, you will be having compliance, but that compliance cannot transfer anything. Why? Because until and unless you do not have the license for Ariba downstream, you cannot work on that particular thing. Okay, keep this thing in mind. Same standalone contract. See, same thing as I said over here, Tanmay, that let me just unmute you. I think that would be much better. Yeah, Tanmay. So basically, standalone contract or subcontract, for both of this contract type, the same process will be there. It won't be different. Okay, any other queries, Tanmay, or any other queries or concern? I've already unmuted you.
Hello.
Yeah, Tanmay.
Yeah, Manoj. So I have one query. Say you said that standalone contract doesn't need this thing RFP, right?
Yeah. No,
Hello.
no, 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 no. Tanmay, 1 second. Yeah,
Okay.
I think there is a misunderstanding. I will say standalone
Okay.
contract means when I was talking about creation of contract with reference to RFP. Without reference to RFP, that is not
Yeah,
actually
without.
standalone agreement. See, here when we are talking about the standalone agreement, in this case, all the RFP, basically contract will be created with reference to RFP only.
Okay. So what about Manoj? Like, what about the contracts without reference to RFP? Are they not
Yeah.
so frequent, or I
Generally, in
mean,
that case, see, when you will do that, when you are
uh-huh.
having some urgent requirement, right?
Correct,
Some urgent
correct.
requirement came over there. So if you want to consume that particular contract, okay, you cannot send it to directly to downstream. What you need to do is
Okay,
like, you either will be doing it manually. That's the first thing.
okay,
Or
okay,
else, let's say you're having 3 weeks or 1 month in hand. So then what you're going
okay.
to do? Then you're going to use Ariba contract compliance, but you will use a BPO rather than using a PO.
Okay, okay. So because Manoj, like there are many things which are getting populated from contract management and all this stuff,
Yeah.
like from SLP. So that's what I was wondering, if it is created without reference to an RFP. So
Mhm.
what happens then? So many
No,
of the
no, there
fields
will be
would.
no issues. No, 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 no. See,
Okay.
none of the data is coming from your contract. Sorry, none of the data is coming from your sourcing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, okay.
Basically, most of the data in contract compliance is either coming from contract management or
Correct.
from your downstream part. That means your user
Okay.
profile, buyer user profile over there. Nothing is
Okay.
coming from directly from the sourcing or directly from the SLP. Indirectly, it is coming through the contract management.
So one question, Manoj, like when we were seeing the data for company code purchasing organization, which
Mhm.
was getting auto populated. So
Yeah,
you said that is coming from user profile. So it means
yeah.
the like supplier onboarding part, right?
No, this is actually
So
part of buyer user profile, not supplier user profile.
sorry, got it. Yeah. Got it. I
Yeah. So
understand.
basically, when you are
Okay.
creating the buyer ID, at
Ha.
that time you will need it.
Yes, of course. Yes. Okay. That's it, Manoj. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome, Tanmay. Yeah,
Okay.
Prem actually, yeah. Thanks, Tanmay. Prem, actually, I have already unmuted you over here, but I think it is still not coming over here. Why? Because from my side, I have unmuted you. I think there's some issue with your audio. Can you just unmute yourself once more? Just a moment. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
Prem.
are you able to hear me?
Yeah, Prem, I'm able to hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, I have a couple of questions. One is you
Yeah,
did mention about the non-catalog item, right?
yeah, yeah.
Somewhere in the process. So my question is, when we say about non-catalog, when we talk about catalog, are we talking about catalogs that we go to another company's catalog, integrated
No,
catalog,
no, no,
or
no, 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 no.
we are
See,
talking about
basically,
catalog which we need to create internally?
so when we are talking about catalogs over here, so always remember with respect to your buying organization. So that particular talking, thing which you're talking about, that means universally available uh, catalogs. That is from the supply side. We are not
Mhm.
looking at this particular thing from the supply side. We're looking from the buyer side. So buyer side, when I'm saying about catalogs, always remember catalogs means buying organization's catalog system.
Okay. So the question was, do we need to create a catalog item for every
Yeah.
contract line item we have in contract? For example, you're talking about this laptop. So we have a contract with, let's assume, Lenovo or a reseller
Yeah.
of Lenovo for 50 laptops. So which means that,
Yeah.
do I need to go to my catalog and create a catalog saying that, laptop Lenovo, which is whatever is it, $2,000 or something, you put whatever is the price we agreed with the client, with the buyer, so, not with the buyer, with the vendor, right? Saying
Yeah.
that there's this new item. Do we need to create a catalog item for
No,
every
we
contract
don't need
we?
to create.
Yeah.
We will
Okay.
not create this thing. So
Uh-huh.
for that particular thing, there was one option:
Mhm.
create subscription for non-catalog item. Once you click that thing as yes, Ariba
Huh.
contract compliance will only create a catalog subscription for each of this item, but this will not come separately. It will come under the contract. So let's say C4112
Uh-huh.
is the contract.
Yeah.
Within that contract, only one line item will be appearing. But if you have added 3, 4 line items within the contract, all this whole line item would appear within the catalog section only.
Okay. The reason I'm saying is that one is from the buyer's side. We are looking at contract owner, and things like that. But usually the
Hmm.
general end user is the person who's using this system, right? So he's going
Yeah,
ahead and saying, I want one laptop, right? So when I say
yeah.
I want one laptop, if I'm a general user, does this product reflect in the catalog? Or does all the products which we have gone through a contract compliance, does it
Hmm.
reflect in the catalog automatically? Or does anybody need to go and add that catalog with that related
No, no,
pricing?
no, no, no. You don't have to add all these things. It will appear automatically over there within the catalog section. Automatically, it will come.
Okay, okay, great.
That means
Uh,
the
uh,
end user who wants to
uh,
create a PO, basically who wants to create a PO against the contract, they
uh-huh.
will definitely be able to see these particular items within the catalog section without any
Okay.
manual activity from the administrator side or the admin buyer side.
And the price that gets populated is the price against this contract.
Exactly. Whatever price is present within the tiered pricing as well as the normal pricing which we have added over there in the non-catalog item, all of this data will flow into the catalogs.
Okay, great. And I as a user, I just need to create a request and it goes through the approval process and just gets out. And I don't
Yeah,
need to worry about anything. Okay,
nothing. A
that's great.
PO will get created. This PO will be
Okay,
sent to the supplier. That's it.
okay, great. And that question is clear. This is the next question is, I did
Yeah,
just keep hearing you saying about a lot of dependency on the department. For example, the templates and
yeah.
all of those things which are department based. In a company like ours, we do not have a department based structure.
Hmm.
For us, it is just one structure. But what we have type of process or different types of templates is a
Hmm.
template for professional services, a template for IT, or template for hardware or a real estate type of a thing, right? It's not
Hmm.
department based. So every
Yeah,
any person, a person raises a request from finance or from manufacturing or from production.
yeah.
If it's for a laptop, it is the same process, it's the same template, right?
Then in that
So
scenario,
yeah.
what you need to do is like you don't need to create template department wise. So depending upon your business process, let's say 5 different business processes are there. So you will create 5 different custom templates, and this
Okay.
template will be visible to all the user. Why we generally use templates over there? Because for complex project, whenever you will go and work with the MNC, very big MNCs, they will be having some 15 to 20 departments, and you need to
Okay.
create around 60 to 70 templates over there. And imagine if you give the 60 and 70 template viewable to each buyer will get confused, right? Which one to
Okay.
choose, which one to not choose. So that is why we
Okay.
will use the department. to only show them one or two template. So that means buyer will not get confused. But in your case, in your company's case, since they are saying they are restricting their process to 4 or 5 business process only, so you can create 5 templates for them. You don't need to put any visibility condition against the department.
Okay. And do we have an option to create it against a, what do you call, a company code or a legal entity? For example, you might have
Yeah,
one
definitely,
company
definitely,
US. Okay, we can do that.
definitely. So what you need to
Instead
do
of
is like,
department, we could use
instead of,
company code.
exactly, in the condition you have to just not select department, you can select company code. See, whatever
Okay.
I am saying over here in the session, it does not
Uh-huh.
mean that you have to follow that thing, but those things are the
Okay.
best practices of SAP Ariba.
Okay.
And from my
Okay.
experience, I'm saying this thing. But if there's an exceptional business process over there, definitely you can
Uh-huh.
do that. The only thing is like you have to replace the department with the company code and you have to give the proper value. And the same thing, you have to link it in the overview condition.
Okay. Yeah, because my question was because our structure is more region based. For example, India might have its own legal entity, right? We
Yeah,
might need an additional process in the India legal entity, which is not
yeah,
followed in the US or vice versa, right? So just
yeah,
want to make sure that that can be accounted.
yeah.
Thank you for that. Final question is, I did see a lot of these structures called purchase unit, purchase organization, company code,
Yeah,
then you have business unit, then you have
yeah,
department.
yeah.
So
So these
is
are
there a
actually
structure?
part of, no, there is, I think I got your question over here, Prem. So basically, I think you're asking about the organization structure, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So basically, remember in Ariba, there is no direct organization structure. See, in SRM, there was a direct purchasing organization structure, right?
yeah.
Procurement organization structure. But this thing is not available in Ariba directly, but indirectly it is available. Indirectly, how? It will be
Okay,
there in the user profile, and within your user profile, you will have to give supervisor. So through the supervisor, you can have the hierarchy, and within each buyer user ID profile, you have to give this units like purchasing unit, purchasing organization, purchasing group. So through that, but there is a no hard and fast organization structure screen where you can configure all of those things.
okay, okay. Great.
Okay.
One
So more
final
on this part.
question when we, yeah,
Yeah,
one
just
final
just
question.
just
Yeah, I think I've got
just
it.
just a, just a
Yeah,
moment over here,
sure,
Prem.
sure, sure.
The thing is like,
Mm,
next query, I think
mm.
most of the participants who want to ask is like, Manoj, if there is no direct org structure over there, how we are going to do the cross organization buying? Now, basically, why we use the why we use a proper, organization structure over there
Structure.
to do cross organization buying mainly. So that part
Okay,
also I will show you, but this will come in the first session of integration. There we will take the help of purchasing unit, and there to the purchasing unit I will show you how a single buyer can buy for multiple company code, multiple purchasing organization, multiple purchasing group.
okay, okay. Great. Yeah, that is required. And thank you for that. And the final thing is, who
Yeah,
owns or who initiates this contract compliance process? Is it the buyer or is it the contract owner? Because user is definitely not touched by this, but because it's
yeah,
more of an upstream side. So does the
yeah.
buyer initiate this to ensure that we are not slipping on the contract,
No,
or is there
generally,
somebody else?
generally buyer don't initiate it. Basically, remember buyer means like who is creating the contract. Basically, contract will be created by contract agent. They are junior
Okay,
guys.
yeah,
Okay. Then there is a thing called as contract manager role as well as contract administrator role. They are the senior guys over here. So this particular senior guys will be creating this contract compliance. Why? Because once the junior guys complete their contract management process over there, they will be sending a mail that yes, I have published this contract, please create a contract compliance. So generally, why this particular thing happens is because in contract compliance as of now, there is no
huh,
automatically transfer of data. Some part of data will be coming over there, but you have to add those items and all those stuff, right, manually. So
okay,
there,
okay,
if you give it to junior user, what that particular guy will do is like they might increase the amount, decrease the amount.
okay,
So that is why
yeah,
this particular thing is always given to a little bit of senior guys, mainly with the contract manager role or with the contract administrator role.
okay, okay, yeah. Thank you. I think I've got a summary of my requirements. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome, Prem. Yeah, just a moment, guys. Uh, Yeah, I think Venkatesh is having a query. Yeah, Venkatesh, you're having any query?
Hi, Manoj.
Yeah, Venkatesh, can you speak a little bit closer to the mic?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
No, your voice is coming very low.
Is this okay now?
No, Venkatesh, I think it is coming very low. Means, we are not able to hear your voice properly. Can you speak
Is this
once more?
okay now?
Yeah, it is coming slowly, but okay. Just ask your query. But
Okay.
remember, I am not able to get your voice fully over here.
Okay. Manoj,
Yeah,
so after the contract, this one, it is moving to downstream, right? Like that, without downstream, can we take it to ECC system for further
yeah,
processing?
yeah. Definitely. Yes, you can do that. That particular thing we will generally discuss in the integration scenario. As I said, like being a part of experienced person in Ariba, I will say integration is all about scenarios. So first we will see the scenarios, then we will see the configuration. So as per your question, let me give you a heads up answer over there. I will not go into too much detail, but I will give you an answer straightforward over here that yes, you can send this contract from your upstream to ECC for the further consumption of this particular contract. That also you can do apart from this particular process, but that will be a slightly different scenario over there. Why? Because in integration also there will be some 3 to 4 scenarios over there. So the one scenario which you're talking about, that is also possible. The one scenario which I'm talking about, that is called as the H2P scenario, this is also possible over there. So we are going to discuss both of these two things in our integration scenario.
Okay. And Manoj, this you told that supplier number,
Hmm.
so no, ECC material number will be mapped to supplier number
Part
in the
number.
catalog, right?
Yeah,
Supplier part.
yeah,
It is supplier part number means in catalog it is the one which is used by supplier, right?
yeah. So yes, basically
In that
yes.
case, in that
Yeah.
case,
Mhm.
if the there may, but it's going to be external number, right? Supplier part number, but our ECC it is going to be internal, maybe, or
Yeah,
external in some cases, but there
yeah.
will be mismatch, right? Material number.
Yeah, no, actually, yes, you're correct over here. So this one is a customization thing which I told. This is not a standard thing. That's the first thing. Second thing, why I told this thing, because there is no concept of material number in Ariba itself. So imagine if you're creating a PO in ECC and if you're sending that PO to Ariba Spend Management, what will happen? Ariba will not take, Ariba will not take the material number. Okay, no
Correct.
issues. But from
Correct.
Ariba side, if you want to send the PO to ECC, there is no material number in Ariba side. So ECC will immediately throw up a dump saying, hey, there is no material number. So as a part of integration, so there we will do a customization. What customization? That means the supplier part ID part number will be present within your PO from Ariba. That particular material number, we will map it to the material number of what? Of your ECC system. Then only your PO will get replicated properly in ECC. Remember, this is a customization option. This will not work in standard.
Okay. And this one master agreement, when it cannot be moved to downstream because it is not
Yeah.
having a value, so where it
Yeah.
will be used, this master agreement, because we
See,
are going,
basically, master agreement. Try to understand this thing. I will tell you what is master agreement. So let's say you want to, let's say you own a consultancy company, okay, and you are a supplier to SAP itself. So you have been selected by SAP to go for one of the SAP Ariba implementation. So what will happen is like the first contract which you're going to sign just after winning the RFP is master contract. Master contract means what? There will be no thing related to price, nothing related about the SAP Ariba implementation. It is just some general terms and condition which you as a supplier has to agree with SAP, saying since SAP is based out of Germany, you have to follow the GDPR rules, okay, and money will be given based on the milestone which is exactly agreed according to the uh, sub agreement. Similarly, money paid will be in euros. or it will be in USD, it will not be in INR. So these are general terms and condition. So general terms and condition is generally used in the master agreement. Now, once you sign the master agreement, then let's say you have won the Ariba implementation project. Now Ariba will say, please sign the subcontract. Now within the subcontract, what will happen? There you will have the price, milestone, how the payment will happen, all of these things, and it will also points toward the master agreement saying this subcontract is having all the value, terms and condition, but along with this thing, it is also making the master agreement terms and condition enforceable. So that is the concept of master and subcondition. Sorry, subcontract over here. So
Okay.
you will see in subcontract only ultimately we are having the terms and condition, and we are having mainly the quantity, value, everything. So that is why subcontract as well as uh, uh, standalone agreement, these two are only sent from upstream to downstream. Master, if you send it, that particular contract from upstream to downstream, what will happen? There will be issues. Why? Because there is no value, and if there is no value, how you will create a PO against it?
Got it. Got it. And another question. You told that org structure will not be creating in Ariba. There is no concept of
Yeah.
that one. And
Yeah.
values will be coming from buyer, this one parameters.
Yeah.
In the previous process, like RFQ process, where it was reflecting purchase organization, those are all from buyer parameters, right?
Yeah. So basically, those things are different parameters. This thing is user parameters. So you basically buyer parameter. Remember, for sourcing, contracting, all those stuff, this is all in upstream. These parameters are not existing in sourcing, contracting, neither in upstream. Why? Because these things are downstream specific. And since, as I said, contract compliance is part of upstream as well as downstream, so that is why all these values are coming into your downstream, nothing else.
Okay.
Okay, so always remember, as a buyer, if you don't have this information like purchasing unit, purchasing or company code within your attribute, means like user attribute, then in downstream you cannot work in any of the process. But in upstream you don't need any of this thing. So that is why in upstream we haven't talked about purchasing unit, purchasing organization, company code over there directly. Why? Because these are mainly for downstream usage.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other queries, Venkatesh?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Venkatesh. Tarek, yeah. Can you please go ahead with your query?
Yes. Good morning, Manoj.
Yeah.
A quick
Good morning,
question.
Tarek.
It's not related to contracts. Mainly, I heard in one of the projects that I worked for that the Ariba team used to say that there are some activities to be performed by SAP Ariba team themselves when it comes to the Ariba deployments. So
Yeah.
in order to they can start doing the configuration activities and so on. So
Yeah.
if you have time, and let's say when it comes to the upcoming sessions, can you just
Yeah.
brief for us what kind of activities needs to be performed by the Ariba or SAP Ariba team themselves, so the
Yeah.
functional consultant can start doing his own configuration whenever you have time, and it's not necessarily today.
Yeah. So on this part, Tarek, I think next Saturday when we are going to begin with our session, just when we are going to begin our session, remind me of this point. I am going to talk on this point. Yes, this is a very important point which you took up. Generally, I will cover this particular point on the last day of our session, but no need to wait for the last day of our session. We will discuss these points in next Saturday session only, but remind me on next Saturday morning only itself when we are going to begin the session.
Perfect. Thank you, Manoj. That's it.
Yeah, welcome, Tarek. Yeah, just a moment. Yeah, Diksha, you are having any query?
Yeah, Manoj, sorry, just two questions.
Yeah.
One is that you added a new catalog item right now, laptop with high performance. Okay,
Exactly,
it was
that means
not in the
non-catalog
catalog.
item.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you added
non-catalog
it.
item.
So now it will be added in the catalog.
Exactly.
Okay. So when the contract finishes for that item, the item will still remain in the catalog, right?
Yeah, so basically, once you submit this contract compliance and its status become open, that means it has gone into downstream. That means a catalog item has been created against this contract line item within your Ariba downstream automatically. That means it is no more a non-catalog item right now. Why? Because it is present within the catalog. So next time when you will go and create another contract compliance against another contract, so instead of 2 catalog item, you will see 3 catalog item.
Okay. And against the contract compliance, this item was created. Irrespective of the contract being there now or it being expired, the item will remain in the catalog, right?
Exactly. It will be there. The only thing is like once the expiration date is over, the item will be there, but you cannot use the item to create a PR. But it will be present
Okay.
in the search option in the catalog.
Okay, fine. Okay, and second question is that like in the screen I can see the effective date is 14 July 2019 and expiration date is 14 July 2020. Now,
Yeah.
if in 6 months I have consumed the whole contract, still 6 months are left for the
Ah,
expiry.
now you cannot do anything
Okay, I
until
cannot.
unless until unless you revises the value. That means you have to go to the contract first. There you have to change the value, republish.
Okay.
Then what will happen? You have to go to the contract compliance, and automatically there you will see the value has been updated properly. You just need to submit this. So what will happen? The second value, second version of your contract compliance is going to go from upstream to downstream with extra amount. Then what will happen is like for the next 6 months you can use the extra amount.
Okay, and vice versa also, if the contract expires but the quantity is still left to be consumed, then
No, then you cannot use it. Then what you can do is like once again you have to go to the contract, increase its expiration date, publish it. Same thing for contract compliance. So always remember, whenever you're doing any changes in contract management, okay, in contract compliance you don't have to do anything, but you have to edit it and republish it so that whatever new data has came from contract, it should reflect in the contract compliance. And if it reflects in contract compliance, the downstream catalog item against the contract will also get reflected with the new value.
okay, so in both the cases, a version 2 needs to be created then.
Exactly. And that is the right process from the compliance part as well as from the audit part. Why? Because if you don't do this particular thing, if you give the option, the second option was there, right? Change PO for closed contract. What will happen? It will be an audit or a compliance violation. So this is the general process which we follow in case of expiration, or if you want to increase the amount, or if you want to increase the expiration date.
Okay. Thanks, Manoj. Got it.
Yeah, welcome, Diksha. Yeah, Tanmay, you're having any query?
Yeah, so Manoj, as
Yeah.
you said, like we added a non-catalog item,
Mhm.
which was okay. So is there any control over that, or like like is there any approval flow or
Acha, acha,
anything
acha.
like that?
No, generally, as I said, there will be a single approval flow for the contract compliance.
Okay,
So
okay,
if you want to
okay.
configure this thing, you have to configure in the downstream part. So whenever, if you configure this thing and if you activate the approval workflow, let's say 2 level. So in that
Okay.
case, whenever you are editing the contract compliance, once you submit it,
Mm-hmm.
it will not get submitted. So what will happen is like the approval will get triggered. Once it is approved by both of the approvers, then only the data will flow from upstream to downstream.
So you're saying the whole miscellaneous part of contract compliance has an approval flow. In that only the control of which item is getting added into catalog will be controlled, like will be approved,
Yeah, basically
right?
you can control this thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
remember, it is not only for item, but this is for the whole contract compliance, this approval.
Yes. I understand that. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but then again,
Okay, Manoj.
I
That's
will say one thing from the best
uh-huh.
practices from Ariba side. Ariba will say, hey,
Okay.
you have already taken approval in contract management. So whatever changes you are doing in
Yes.
contract management, it is already approved. Why
True.
you want to waste your time once again with the approval
Correct.
workflow for the contract compliance?
Correct.
That
Yeah,
is
now I
why
understand. Okay.
most of the time we don't use it, but some clients will be stubborn,
Mm-hmm.
right? They will not agree to us.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, yes,
So
they
for
will know.
them, we have to do it.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Tanmay. Yeah, Shravan, you are having any query? Shravan, you need to unmute yourself.
Hi Manoj, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Shravan.
Yeah, so now we see the status as open contract compliance, right?
Yeah,
So that means this contract is moved from upstream to downstream, right?
yeah,
But in the back end, the back job will run, right, to move this.
yeah. Yeah, definitely it will run. So generally, we don't have to configure any batch job over here. Why? Because if you're having contract compliance and if you're having downstream over there, immediately when we submit this particular contract compliance, within 4 to 5 seconds, that batch job will run, and that batch job will create the catalog item for this contract in downstream automatically.
Okay, okay. So it's a standard one.
Yeah,
We
it's a
no need.
standard one. Yeah. So
Oh,
there are some jobs which we have to schedule in Ariba. Mostly it is related to the catalogs kind of thing. So when we will be going to the catalogs, that means I think next Saturday only we will go into the downstream. We will begin with catalogs configuration. So there we will, I will show you what are the different jobs and how you can schedule those jobs over there. And in today's session also, we will also see the scheduling of job, basically with job for the prepackaged report. But that is, remember, only for your uh, higher management. Reports are generally used for your higher management. So how to schedule those things also we are going to see in today's session. But this is not related to any change of status. Why? Because prepackaged report is only we are going to use to see the data. That means how much spend is happening, where it is happening, and how it is happening.
okay. Thanks, Manoj.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other queries, Shravan?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome, Shravan. Okay, guys. So this is basically the contract compliance. Remember, there is no template. Why? Because this is not a upstream specific thing. Now, why I am saying this thing? Because as an interviewer, I have asked this question to a lot of interviewees, saying, excuse me, that where we will do the configuration in contract compliance. So most of the interviews used to say that in contract compliance template, there is nothing called as contract compliance template. Why? Because contract compliance is a standard solution which is available. Only prerequisite is you should have downstream and you should have contract management module. If you don't have either of these two things, contract compliance will not work. Okay, so keep this thing in mind. Now, next thing is prepackaged reporting when we are talking about this particular thing. So, what is prepackaged reporting? Because basically, this is not for the normal end user. Why? Because normal end user is mostly what you can say interested in the transactional data, and some administrator will be interested in the master data. But reporting section is generally used by whom? By your higher management. Now remember, in most of the project you will have the reporting things, but reporting things are not always in priority. But remember one thing, currently in the you know market, okay, currently in the market right now, if we are talking about this particular report things, you will be amazed. Why? Because I will show you how to customize this particular standard reports. But currently you look at a normal Ariba consultant who is working in any project, how they will generate the report. They will generate the report without any configuration, because they will say configuration or customization is not possible in standard prepackaged report. Most of the Ariba consultant will say like that. So what they will do, they will download the report in Excel, then they will do all this calculation in the Excel, okay, for next 7 to 10 days. And once they have done the calculation, they have moved all the data, then they will send this data to high management. Now remember, every quarter they have to do this for somewhere around 15 to 20 reports. So in effect, in any implementation or any support, there is 1%, one Ariba consultant who is just sitting for doing work in prepackaged reporting, that too manually. That is not needed at all, because I will show you how you can automate this process. You don't need to download any Excel. it will get delivered to your ID. Along with that, if you want to send that particular Excel to the higher management, you don't need to send it manually through email also. You can totally automate this process. You can totally customize this particular reports without raising a single ER. Enhancement request is not required at all over here. So that is why, guys, remember this particular thing is important. Why? Because currently there is a lot of people who are not having knowledge how to deal with it. 90% of the consultant who are working with prepackaged reports, they are doing their job manually. You don't need to do it. So please pay close attention over here. So remember, guys, if you are going to work on prepackaged reporting, you need to have two roles. What is the roles? Let me just type in the chat message over here. Generally, junior users will have this role. Okay. Next is senior users. They will have the senior analyst role. Okay. What is the specific difference between the analyst role and the senior analyst role? So remember this thing. Analyst role means what? Means you can run the report, you can download the report in Excel output, but you cannot customize it. If you want to customize this thing, you need to have the senior analyst role. So always remember, whenever you're going into any implementation project or any support project and you're going to work with Ariba prepackaged reporting, ask for the senior analyst role, not for the analyst role. Okay. So once you have the senior analyst role within your user ID, what you need to do is like you need to go over here, click on manage. Once you click on manage, there will be a thing called as prepackaged report. You can see it over here. Click on the prepackaged reports. Now, most of the Ariba consultant, they will think this is basically all the report. Actually, it's wrong, guys. This is not report. This is the category of the report. Let's say contract. I will click on open. Now, this particular thing which you are seeing, basically these are the reports. Okay. So the first screen, when you have, clicked on the prepackaged reporting, it's different categories. Okay, that means whether the report is for contract compliance, whether the report is for contract, whether the report is for sourcing, whether the report is for PO, whether the report is for PR, all those things, those are categories. Remember, not commodity code, category or types of report basically. Okay, once you click on that, then here you are able to see these reports. Okay, now I want to take a little bit complex report over here. So what I will do, I will click on contract by amount left. You click on this report, I will click on open. Once you click on open, this particular screen which is coming, this is called as refined data. What do you mean by refined data over here? Basically, I am going to make you explain or basically explain this particular prepackaged report with respect to or with reference to the ECC reports. So refined data screen in SAP Ariba is equal to input screen for your report in ECC. That means if you want to enter the data for filtering of your reporting, you will enter it over here. Okay. So what I will do, I will select the fixed date range and I will give 2 years from 1st January 2018 till 31st October 2019. And I will click on view report. So very easy. See, report it is showing this is the different contracts. This is the effective date, expiry date. This is the total amount for all the contract for last 2 years and the other things. Very easy, right? So generally, if you go to any project and if you ask any Ariba consultant, they will also tell you, you have to do it by like this, the way I have shown over there. But in production system, are you going to use this particular scenario like this? You're going to run a report like this? Never. Never. It will never work. Why? Because let's say the effective date which I am giving is almost 2 years, right? How many contracts will be existing in your production system for 2 years? Take a guess over here, guys. How many contracts in production system for 2 years at least? At least, basically. No, guys, it won't be in 100. Let me tell you, it will be in thousands. It will be in thousands. So basically, 1,000 contract is there, right? Very good. But this particular thing is, don't think contract by amount limit means contract. This is actually compliance report. So that means if there are 1,000 contracts, are you going to only create one version of the contract? Are you going to create only one version of the contract compliance? No, right? You're going to create multiple versions. Then what will happen? All the version will be coming over there. So let's say 3 version each for the contracts. 1,000 contract you're having. So basically 3,000 data records, right? And all the data record is not coming from one table. It is coming from different tables. So what will happen if you try to run this particular reports in foreground in any production system? The system will crash, or basically you have to wait for 2-3 hours. Then this particular report will come. So that is why in real time in production system, you will never run this report like this in foreground. Okay, this is the major mistake most of the Ariba consultant will do. So then your next query is, Manoj, if I can't run this report, how I will get the output? So there you have to schedule the job to run. We are going to see the scheduling also. Remember, in production, you're not going to directly run this report. You're going to schedule this report to run on a specific date and time. Then what will happen? It will run in the background for 2-3 hours, basically on the weekends. Why? Because the system load is less on the weekends. In weekdays it will be much more. Then what will happen? The report in Excel format will be coming to your email ID. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so that particular part we are going to see later, but later focus on the reporting part and the customization of reporting. So basically, as you can see, this is the reporting section over there. There are different fields which is coming over there. Okay, so basically what is this particular screen called, guys, in ECC? This is an output screen, nothing else, right? So first, refined data is nothing but the input screen, and this is nothing but the output screen. So let's say your client is coming to you and saying that, Manoj, I want you to customize the input screen, the output screen, and also over here, see, 2 amount related field is there. I want you to add 2 more custom amount field within the output of the report, and there I will give you a custom formula. Through that custom formula, calculate those 2 custom fields data. Now if you ask this question to most of the Ariba consultant, they will say, for this thing we will need a ER, enhancement request. Every Ariba consultant, most of the Ariba consultant will say enhancement request. Why? Because 2 custom field is required, 2 custom formula is required, and based on that calculation should be done. But it is pretty easy, guys. You should know how to do it. So click on edit. Once you click on edit, so let's say, what is the client's requirement? Client want you to remove the common supplier from here, okay, and keep the other 2 things. How we can do that thing? Click on this customize this form. Once you click on this thing, what is the requirement? The requirement is to remove the common supplier. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just click on this recycle bin, and I'm going to click on done. Now see, there is no common supplier. Now let's say once again your client is coming and saying, boss, please remove the amount left percentage. I don't want to use this. So again, you will do what? You will go into the customize this form. Okay, remove this amount left %, click on done. See, amount left % is not coming. So this is how you will change the input screen without enhancement request, guys. Always keep this thing in your mind. Okay, you can do it over here. Similarly, some people might ask over here that Manoj, I want to add some more custom fields over here in the input field. Can we do it? Definitely, you can do this. Let's say your client is asking effective date should be added in the input field. Can we do it? Just click on show, okay, and click on done. Now you will see effective date is also coming over here. Okay, so like this, what you can do is like you can do deletion, you can do addition, you can change the properties also, you can change the sequence also for the input field over here. Where you will do this, all this thing you will do it within the customize. Okay, so this is the most easiest part in the report customization. Okay, next is the pivot layout. So when I'm talking about pivot layout, what does this particular thing means? Basically, pivot layout means the output of the report. Okay, so what do you mean by output of the report over here? Basically, how the report will be outputted over here. So let's say your client is saying, Manoj, I don't want contact over here. I also don't want the effective date also over here, or basically expiry over here. These two fields I don't want. Can we remove this? Obviously. How I will remove this? Click on contact. See, remove is coming. Click on remove. Similarly, expiry should be removed. Click on remove, done. Now your client is saying, Manoj, I also want to have the company code. How to add the company code over here? Come over here on the left hand side. Company code is available over here. Click on the company code and then you click on detail fields. Now see, company code is appearing. Now your client is saying, Manoj, company code should be coming at the top level. Can we do this? See, now company code is coming at the top level. Yes, you can do also like that. Okay, so basically this is how your output will get changed over here. You can totally change the output over here based upon your client's requirement. This is also easy. But the next thing, source data, this is not at all easy. Why? Because here you have to be very, very careful. First of all, before I show you how to use custom formula, how to add custom fields over here, what is the concept of main fact and why it is coming with asterisks? So let's take for example, you have some reports in ECC, right? In ECC, from where the data for the reports will be coming? It has to come from somewhere, right? From where it will come? It will come from the database table, right? Yeah, correct, guys. Data tables. So the table in Ariba is generally referred to as fact. So that is why you can see the highlighted part, the main fact which I'm talking about. This is basically the primary table. So automatically, since this is a pre-packaged standard report, main fact table is going to be present over there and it is showing as contract. And why it is coming with asterisks? Because you need to have at least one main fact table for your report. Secondary and second fact and third fact, if you don't have, it is not required. But primary, that is the main fact table, you should have at least one table. Otherwise, from where the data will be shown. So that is why over here, main fact is coming with asterisks. And whenever you are doing a customization, please guys, remember this thing. Please don't make a mistake and change this particular table. If you change this particular table, you are gone. So if your client is saying, coming to you and saying, let's say, Manoj, this is a contract compliance report. Okay, please change the main table from contract compliance to contract workspace. Never ever do this thing. Why? Because you can directly say to the client, boss, for contract workspace thing, there is a separate report under the contract workspace report type. If you want me to change the contract workspace report type, then I will go and change the contract workspace report type. I will not change the contract compliance report. Within the contract compliance report, I will not replace the contract compliance report with a contract workspace thing. Why? Because I think all of you understand over here that whenever we build a report, it is built based on what? Based on the table. So if you change the table, what will happen? Its input field will change, its output field will change. So basically what it will do, if you change this contract to, let's say, contract workspace over here, it will change the whole report and there will be inconsistency. So never ever by mistake change this main fact table. By mistake also, please don't change it. Okay. Next, once you have come down over here, what is your next requirement over here? Client has said, let's say I want to see the difference of the amount ordered or the maximum commitment with the invoiced amount and the reconciled amount. Both of these things are custom fields, and the custom formula is maximum commitment minus total invoiced amount. Similarly, maximum commitment minus total reconciled amount. Okay, so how to add a custom field? Now please don't say over here, guys, you need a enhancement request. You don't need it. See over here, it is showing create user defined field. Click on the user defined field. Now here, what you will say is like difference between invoiced and total amount. This is the custom field, the first custom field which you want to create. Okay. Once you have created this thing, you have to add a formula, custom formula, right? So how you will add this particular value? See, maximum amount, no, not around. Maximum commitment is coming over here. Basically, maximum commitment means total amount over here. So click on add formula over here. See, it has got added over here. Then you will put minus what? The invoiced amount. Where is the invoiced amount? See, it is coming over here. Amount invoiced in euro. So I will select this and add to formula. Okay. So what was my logic? My logic was difference between invoiced and total amount. So that I only did that over here. Max commitment minus amount invoiced. Then what I will do? I will always click on validate. This message should come over here, guys. Formula is valid. Otherwise, what will happen? If it is not coming, there will be error message. Now, why it will come? Because many Ariba consultant, they don't know about this particular thing. And once they know about this thing, what they will do is like, they will try to do a mathematical operation between one mathematical operand and another character type operand. Then what will happen? It will throw up an error saying that you cannot add a number with a character. It is not possible. So always remember, since we are not knowing directly the technical data values over here, right? So whenever we are adding some formula over there, always click on validate. Once you click on validate, what will happen? Ariba will immediately check the data type as well as the operator, if it is compatible or not. If it is compatible, there will be no issues. If it is not compatible, an error message will come. So once you have added this particular thing, what are you going to do? You're going to click on OK. Now see, come down over here. See the custom field which you have added, it is being visible over here. Now in the same way, I'm going to create another custom field. Say, yeah, correct, Diksha. The currency is coming from my user profile only. But that means buyer user profile. Now here, rather than invoiced, I will put reconciled and total amount. Here what I will do, I will once again select max commitment over here minus amount reconciled. Okay, click on validate. Okay, once you click on this thing, it is showing a proper message saying the formula is valid. Then click on OK. Once you click on OK, go back to the pivot layout. There you can see your two custom fields. Now what I am going to do is like I am going to click on next and then I am click on save. Okay, now once you're clicking on save, what is happening over here? What Ariba is saying over here that where you want to save the report. Why it is showing two places, guys? Personal workspace and public reports. Why? Because remember the report where we were doing the customization, it was a standard report. It was not a customized report, right? So as per the standard process, whenever you are doing some customizing activities, all these activities will be not saved within the standard report. It will get saved where? It will get saved within your different places. Now, when you will use personal workspace over here and when you will use public reports. So remember, first thing first is like you're going to do this configuration in development system, right? At that point, always keep it in personal workspace. Why? That means in personal workspace means what? That means it will be only visible within your user ID. That means let's say I have created a custom report and I put it within my personal workspace. Let's say Tanmay is logging in with his own ID over there. Tanmay won't be able to find the report from his ID. But when I will log in from my ID, let's say Manoj ID over there, I would be able to find my report. Why? Because that is a individualized saving of data. So that is called as personal workspace. So always in development, put this thing. Why? Because there will be multiple Ariba consultant. Even from the client side also, they will be accessing those things. And if you save all these things to the public, so what will happen is like whatever changes you have done, those things can be destroyed by anybody else. So to avoid that thing in development, whenever you will be working, use personal workspace. But when these things will be done at the production level, please use public reports. Why? Because sometimes some end user from the high management side will also require access to it. And I think in production, everybody knows you will be the administrator. All the other buyers will not be administrator. So they won't be having the ID or authorization to change this particular report. They can run this report. So always in production, use the public reports. In development, use the personal workspace. Okay. Same thing I'm going to use over here, personal workspace. Okay, and I will say report and I'm going to click on save. Okay, now how I will access my report? I will click on manage. I will click on personal workspace. Okay, I will run this particular report. Open and view report. Now, guys, see, contact is not coming. Expiry is also not coming. Company code is coming over here, right? Similarly, difference between invoiced and total amount, okay, and difference between reconciled and total amount is also coming automatically over here. How? Because of the customization which we have carried over there. So that is why, guys, I was saying to you that you don't need to go to the Excel to change anything. Whatever requirement your client is giving to you, you have to do this customization over here. How you can do this thing? You have to click on edit and you have to do this configuration. And remember, you should have the senior analyst role. Okay. Now, all the customization which your client has asked, you have done this. Very good. But how you're going to schedule this report? For scheduling this report, okay, what you need to do is like you need to go out, okay, discard. Once again, click on manage personal workspace, okay, open. Now here something is coming with the background, right? What you will do, you will click on the background. Then don't click on save as, just click on save. Now this option is coming for your scheduling of this report. So in this particular thing, the first and the second option generally don't select it. Why? Because only one time the job will run. Okay, that is not our goal. Our goal is, let's say, on every Sunday at 12:30 p.m. or 1 p.m. this particular report should run and it should generate an output, and that particular Excel output should be sent in some person's email ID. But this should be done for the next 2 years. So how you can configure that thing? You can configure over here. So effective from and effective to. So today is 14 July 2019. By default, it is showing as effective till 14 July 2021 for 2 years. Automatically it is coming. And here you are saying weekly once. Weekly once this particular program will run on which date and time? On Sunday at 12:30 p.m. That means what will happen when I will schedule this job will run at today 12:30 p.m. Okay. Next week on Sunday, once again on 12:30 p.m. this will run, and this will continue till what date? Till 14/7/2021. Till 14/7/2021, each Sunday at 12:30 p.m. this report is going to run in the background and it will generate a output. Now, generally, the output, you want the output within your email, right? Otherwise, what help you can be done? You won't, it won't be of much help over here, right? So what you need to do, you need to click on this option, attach report to notification email. Once you click this thing as okay over here, what will happen? Automatically an email notification will run that okay, at Sunday 12:30 p.m. this job has been scheduled, and after 2 hours the report has ran successfully. Now a notification, email notification will go to the different users. Along with the notification, what will happen? The Excel attachment will go along with the notification, and within the Excel attachment we will be having the report output. Now recipient user, so system is asking for you to which particular user you want to add the data, you please tell us. So here what I will do is like I will put my user ID, okay, and this user ID also over here. That means what? That means this email, this particular email over here, okay, will be going to both this user ID's email inbox along with the report output. But then you should be asking me, Manoj, what is this recipient email addresses over here, or why it is coming over here? So basically, remember, see, all the higher management in your client side, they will not have Ariba access. So you cannot add their user ID because you will not find their user ID. They will not have access to Ariba system. So in that case, are you going to say that, hey, we are not going to send you data? Why? Because you are not a Ariba user. Yes, obviously you can work in a manual way, but why you want to work in a manual way? So in that case, you just say like somebody like dot like this, you can just give the email ID over here. So then what will happen? Along with the recipient users which you have added, this particular guy will also receive the notification email saying on Sunday at this date, the report has ran successfully. Okay, and this is the output of the report in Excel format. Okay, so this is how we can do what? We can schedule this job to run. Okay, click on OK. Then automatically this particular job will run and it will send a notification over here. Now, I think there is one question from Amal that when we are clicking on view reports over here, see chart options are also available. Yes, we can select different chart, but remember these options cannot be used in your general reporting purposes. So you might be asking then Manoj, where we will be using this particular thing. So I will tell you where you will use that particular thing. You will use it over here. Now let's say I want to add one report over here. How we can add a report? Click on this one, the bench, click on add content. Okay, come down below. I think where is that particular? Yeah, reports. See, report is coming. Okay, here click on chart and table. Once you click on chart and table, what will happen is like automatically system will be asking you where or which particular report you want to use. So here you click on public reports. Okay, in the public reports, if you want to say contract compliance custom report, once you select this thing, Ariba will be asking in which way you want to see the data. So let's say I want to see in pie diagram. So what will happen? I will click on done. Now see contract compliance custom report is coming over here. Just a minute. Yeah, now you can see this contract compliance report is coming in a pie pie chart in my dashboard. Which dashboard? Home dashboard over here. So yes guys, you can use the different charts like pie charts, pie diagram, chart diagrams, and other things also, but only for dashboard viewing. That particular diagram, basically the bar chart or the pie chart, all those things, it cannot be directly used within your Excel format. But here in the home tab, you can see the different charts over here. Okay guys, so in this way you can customize your own user interface. Okay, that is the meaning of this thing and nothing else. Okay, so guys, any other queries, you can raise your hand. I'm going to unmute you one by one. Yeah, well, are they interactive? I think there's one query from Amal. Are they if they interactive through the other dashboard element? Yes, so basically Amal, if you see most of these particular things which is coming in charts, these are basically reports. So these are coming in an interactive way. So once your data changes everything, what will happen is like this will automatically come. So basically, let's say right now you have logged in into your Ariba system, you are seeing one chart. Tomorrow when you will log in once again into Ariba system, the chart will change. Why? Because the report is getting changed. So anytime once the report is getting changed, the chart will also change depending upon the data. Yeah, Diksha, you're having any query?
Yes, Manoj. Regarding the report, you scheduled it to run for example, every Sunday at 12:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay. So the chart will also depend on that? No.
See, the chart is used where? In this particular login page, right? In this particular tab, right? So whenever you are viewing this tab, at that particular point, the report will run in the background. We don't have to schedule it. automatically report will run in the background, and based on the data availability, it will show up over here. But the job which we have scheduled over there, that is not used for this particular report within the home tab. That is used for getting the report output in Excel format. So that is how the things happen. So always remember, in the screen, if you're going to add this particular report within your home page, this particular data which is shown over here in the report right now is currently available in the system. But the notification email along with the output content of the report, it will come only when you will schedule the job to run.
Okay, so the updation on home screen is real time.
Yeah,
in the chat.
this is real time. Yeah, this is real time.
Okay. And another question I have is not related to this, just this manage tab. This
Yeah.
will be, so this means this will be visible only to Ariba consultants. Then
Yeah.
an actual buyer or
Correct.
end user, they won't see this, right?
Yeah, no, they won't be able to see this manage part. They will see the recent, they will see the create tab, but the manage tab won't be available to them at all.
Okay. Yeah, that's all. Thanks so much.
Yeah, welcome, Diksha. Yeah, any other queries, guys? And one more thing, Amal, I like to add is like not only in home, you can go in any of the tab over here and you can add your reports also over there. Same thing, it will apply. So once you run this particular thing, it will depend upon your runtime data over there, and it will be displaying the real data over here. So in any tab, you can go and you can add any report which you want. But generally, as a part of SAP Ariba best practices, we prefer to add report in our home tab only, not in all the other tab. But yes, if there's a client requirement, then you can use it. Yeah, any other queries, guys? Yeah, thanks, Amal. Yeah. Since there is no query, guys, so let's do one thing. Let's conclude our session for the day. And next week, we are going to begin with our Ariba downstream. So be prepared for that. Why? Because since this is the 50% completion of our course over there, remember, from next session onwards, our session will become quite complicated. Why? Because the configuration is not going to look easy at all in downstream part. Why? Because those are technical in nature. Before that, I think Pawan is having a question. Just a minute, Pawan. Yeah, Pawan. Can you please go ahead with your query?
Yeah, thank you, Manoj. So there is a one field while you are reporting the schedule the reporting above the attached notification. There is a number of days running. So what does mean exactly?
Okay. Number of runs. So basically, number of days / runs to keep, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So basically, that particular thing means, most of the time we will use the email notification to get the output. But some of the times, what will happen is like end user who has access to Ariba system, they will schedule this job to run, and once this job finishes over there, they will just go into the system and see the output within the report. So Ariba is saying, hey, there will be huge amount of data. So once this job completely run, let's say at 2:30 p.m. Sunday. Okay. So for how many days I will keep this report output within my system? After that, I will archive it. So if you mention 3 days over there, there was Sunday to Monday, Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday. Wednesday at 2:30 p.m., this output will be archived. That means once you go into the system on Wednesday, 5 o'clock, you will not find output. You have to run that report once again. So that is the meaning of number of days to keep.
Okay, Manoj, thank you.
Yeah, but then again, Pawan, you don't need to use this thing. Why? Because I have given a much easier solution. Why? Because once you run the notification, just click on add attachment to email. Within the email notification only, you are going to get all this output, Excel output.
Yes.
It will be much easier.
Easier, but my question is, if there is an option to attach in the notification, but still you can see that field, right? So that's the reason
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah. Why? Because as I said, most of the higher management people, they will be using this report. So even if they're having the logins, they will not log into Ariba. Why? Because they will be busy with other things. So they will
Yeah.
always say, please send me the report in Excel format in my mail only. So that is
Yeah.
why we prefer to not use the output in the Ariba prepackaged reporting, but to use the notification with the Excel attachment with the report output.
That's Excel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other queries?
Yeah, I'm fine with others. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome, Pawan. Yeah, Prem, can you please go ahead with your query?
Yeah, my question was more related to the contract compliance.
Yeah.
Do we need to create a contract compliance for every contract, or is it we only need to create a contract compliance wherever we feel we need to do a contract compliance?
That's a very good query over here, Prem. So remember, when we are following the H2P process, for H2P process, it is mandatory for the contract which we have created to have a contract compliance. Okay, but for the normal contracting process, which you are creating the contract without reference to RFP, for them you don't need a contract compliance. So always remember, the contract which is coming through RFP. Through RFP means, that means after RFP the contract is being created from there. There you have to create a compliance mandatorily. But if you are creating a contract without reference to RFP, that means you're directly creating a contract. So there it is not mandatory.
Okay. The reason I ask this is, for example, you might be buying through an RFP, you might be just buying one laptop, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, why do we need this overhead of contract compliance? We know that the PO goes out for one laptop or 10 laptops. It's one shipment. It comes through, right? So there's nothing to be compliant about, because we are assuming that that's a single transaction. Is it not
Yeah.
an overhead? Is an additional
No,
overhead? Is my question.
so in that case, for let's say for one or maybe for 5 laptop also, if you want to buy, why you want to do a sourcing project? You don't need to do a sourcing project. Why? Because you will know the supplier. So instead of just creating a sourcing project, directly create a contract. Why? Because you can negotiate with the supplier directly on phone or through offline. Once you negotiate with them, directly create a contract without any reference to RFP.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other queries, Prem?
And yeah, the only thing is you kept telling S2P, there is a P2P, there is an O to
Yeah.
P2O. So is there different combination of modules, or how does it?
Exactly.
How do you
No.
differentiate between? Yeah.
This is not a combination of module. This is same modules over here. See, upstream, downstreams within this SLP, sourcing, contracting, contract compliance, P2P, all these are same. But what I am talking about, H2P, P2P, or P2O, these are the scenarios, basically the
Okay.
integration scenarios, how the
Okay.
integration scenarios are running. So why I am saying
Okay.
this thing, because when you will see the scenarios, why? Because most participant think Ariba integration or Ariba implementation is all about configuration. But
Okay.
in actuality, it's not about the configuration. It is about the scenario. Which scenario your client is preferring to build. Those scenario we have to
Okay.
design. Once we design this thing, then only we can go to the configuration, right? So that is
Okay.
why I will always say like H2P, P2P, P2O, something like this. So in this way,
Okay.
what is happening is like I am turning all of your attention towards the scenario building part.
Okay. And just if you can spend a minute on how do we do a purchase without going through a sourcing process?
Okay, so in that case,
Oh,
purchase means basically what you will do is like you will do a contract, and then what will you do is like once you do the contract, so let's say it's urgent requirement, you will do a
okay.
contract, you will publish the contract, you will stop over there. Then what you will do is like you will create a contract based invoice. Basically, it's a non-PO invoice.
Okay. Okay.
As
Okay.
a buyer, you
But
will
I
raise it
can
on the
create.
behalf of supplier.
Okay. So can I create a PO against that? For example, let's assume a scenario. I already have a MSA, which is based on my previous existing engagement with the supplier, right? And I know the pricing, because let's assume this is just a renewal. I purchased a software 5 years back and I'm just renewing it from Ariba, right? Or Oracle.
Yes, you can do that.
Right?
Yes, you can do that.
So
in that scenario, what you need to do is like the MSA is there. What you're going to do is like you're going to do a version 2. Basically, for the contract, you're going to just increase the date and you're going to make a version 2 of the contract. So once you do the version 2, without going into contract compliance, also you can create a invoice, basically contract based invoice. That is the shortest time taken over there. But if you want to go through the PO, then once again the same process. That means once you republish the contract compliance, then you can create the PO.
Okay. Okay. That
yeah.
Lot of overhead. Okay, that's fine. Might be. I think
that particular thing I will be discussing in the exceptional scenario. So exceptional scenario I will discuss in our last session. Why? Because those particular kind of scenario, when you will go to the client, only few clients will be using it. Most of the clients will prefer to avoid it. But still, we are going to discuss on that particular scenario, that how you can do this or how you can do that. So there you have to segregate the data. Which contract will move towards the contract based invoice, which contract will move through the contract compliance, and then the whole P2P process. That filtering you have to do. So that particular thing you have to say to SAP Ariba that boss, this is the logic or validation. This logic they will implement it through enhancement request. Then automatically you don't have to take care of these things.
Okay.
Automatically it will happen.
Okay.
So that also we are going to discuss, but later on, not right now. Why? Because if I discuss this thing, this is enough of a complex process, and that process if I add, it will become much more complex.
Sure. That's fine. Because I'm just trying to correlate to my world. Might be it's not same to others' world, so maybe we can discuss it later.
No. We are going to discuss on this.
Sure.
Don't worry about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome, Prem. Okay. And I think there is one question. Amal is asking a query over here that can we integrate our reports with the BI and BO? No, Amal. Generally, BI and BO cannot be directly integrated with SAP Ariba. Why? Because BI BO is not present with the standard integration scenario. If you want to do this, you have to customize this thing. But again, customization means like you have to build a common integration interface that will take at least 4 to 5 months. So I would say avoid that thing as of now. Okay, but definitely in the what you can say upcoming days, we can integrate MDG, MDM servers also with SAP Ariba, but BIBO as of now cannot be integrated through the standard solution of SAP Ariba integration. Okay, and then I think there's one question from Diksha. Then how we will use it in downstream. So basically, Diksha, I think you're asking about a contract, right?
Yes, if the contract compliance is not done, then.
Okay, so that is a manual process, as I said. So in that case, basically, if you're creating a contract invoice, that means as a buyer, you will raise a contract invoice, not as a buyer, actually a invoice administrator, you will create it. And the second thing is like those invoices are basically non-PO based. So you don't need a PO over there. So PR, PO, GR, all these things are not needed. So that is why it's a totally manual process and there is no checks and balances against the process. So that is why most client say that we don't want to implement this process. Why? Because there is no checks and balances. That means, let's say you say that I need 100 laptop within a contract, and if you don't want to use this contract compliance way, what will happen? Then your company is going to believe on your word, saying that yes, you have received all this thing. So that is why most of the time company don't want to use it. But without P also, we can use this thing process over here.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, welcome, Diksha. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks all. Thanks, Diksha. So guys, let's conclude our session for today. Next Saturday, we are going to begin with our downstream. Be prepared for that. Why? Because session will get stressed. Why? Because those configurations are quite technical in nature, and you have to be also very attentive over there. Why? Because one small thing you forget over there, Ariba downstream is not forgiving. Ariba upstream is still forgiving. You can, forget some of the things, but you still can manage. But Ariba downstream is not forgiving at all. So there you have to be on the toe, and you have to be ready. And you will see the scenarios as well as the configuration over there much complex compared to upstream. Okay. So the downstream part will begin from next week. Okay. Once we complete the downstream part, then the most complex thing in Ariba we are going to discuss, that is the integration also over there. Okay, so this marks the 50% of our training over here, guys. Next 50% is going to be much more complex, much more harder over here. So be ready for it from next Saturday. Yeah. So once again, thanks Saili for conducting this session, and thanks all of you guys for attending this session. We'll meet once again at the same time next Saturday. Thanks all of you, and have a great weekend ahead. Yeah. Bye, guys.